Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H Event Space, and welcome to another edition of the Passionate Photographer Critiques, where we take your submissions and Steve and I critique them. Very simple. If you guys are just joining us and haven't seen these before and you did want to get in on the action, just head over to the Event Space page and you'll find all the information right there for submitting. But now I would like to thank Lassie for hosting this wonderful ongoing series. Really has been a blessing to have you on so much, Steve, because the people want it, they love it, they want more of it.
You can't argue with the people, Derek. I mean, I've tried, but it just doesn't work. But no, it's great to be here. The weather is getting good. I've been going out with my camera a little bit, inspired by many of the images that we talk about here in this space, Derek. And that's part of the whole deal is, yeah, please submit your stuff. But even if you didn't, just come take a look and see what other people are sharing with us. And I think, like Derek and I, you will be inspired too. So I guess we should just sort of get right in. And I wanted to start off. I think last time we had a lot of black and white, and we were talking about the many wonderful things about black and white photography. But as you can see from this thumbnail selection, I thought we'd kind of start with a flourish of color. And we love black and white, but we also appreciate great color. And you can see, even when you look at the thumbnails, you can recognize that, there's some interesting images here. There's some great compositions, and you can see it, even though you can't necessarily see everything, excuse me, that's going on, within the frame. So let's start off with this one. And I think that there's some commonalities with these first two images. Sorry for the pop of the can of special water. It's actually just water. But I can feel my mouth getting a little dry, just overcome by color. You can see that these first few images, there's a drama in the light. I think that it does make sense if you're kind of wanting to create a certain kind of look to your images. And there's no doubt, later in the day, close to the golden hour, or, maybe not too far from the golden hour, there can be a drama in terms of the low light in the sky, which creates contrast to areas of black with no detail. And that's okay. Your histogram doesn't always have to have detail. And I think that though I can tell that maybe a couple of these were by the same photographer, there are different photographers here. And a lot of us like to shoot in this kind of light. I don't all the time, but I like it. Derek, do you go out at a specific time to do your street photography, or, you're kind of open to what
Yeah, I'm open, although I have been, going out with Phil Penman and seeing the way he sees light and the way he takes note of how light hits at certain times, and really just looking at the images that I love. We talk about how we have to know what we like in order to know what we want to create. And for me, I do love really stark light, and I found that yes, I'll go out whenever I have time, when time permits, especially when the weather gets nice like this, you want to be out. But I find when I go out and I look for the light that I really, really, really love, I end up liking those images way more because I'm getting what I want and I'm not settling.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see perhaps a little bit, it accentuates the drama on the street. I mean, we talk about street theater, and there is drama in terms of the light. I mean, you can see that there are two individuals sort of highlight in this particular picture. The person on the right is kind of maybe the main subject, and the person on the left is more of a supporting actor, if you will. And the drama of the light, the drama of the building, the drama on her face, I think makes this kind of an interesting shot. And we talk about going out, and street photography is photographing a bunch of strangers that we don't really know anything about. So you want the image to kind of say something about the time, about the place, about the people, even though you may not know them and you never will. But photography is a universal experience, and we can tell from sort of the expressions, kind of maybe what might be going on, within people. In some ways, no disrespect to the person on the left, but I don't even know if the person on the left is necessarily helping this particular picture. I like the way it forms the composition, but the drama on the person on the right's face, the building on the left to her, is so powerful that in some ways, the expression on the person on the left with the blue is somehow taking away some of that drama for me. So, I could try and do a crop, but let me get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I'll take it a step further. One thing that has been really helpful for me in my street photography work is forecasting. So, what I call forecasting is really just my head's on a swivel. I'm constantly paying attention to what's around me and what is a possible distraction. What direction, if I see a subject like this, what direction are they going? Making these decisions early. Is it someone that I do want to photograph? Which direction are they going? Where do I line myself up to get the best shot? When I look at this image, I immediately think of all the distractions in it. And there's she has such a nice complexion, such a nice shape. Like it's like has like that model, like that the cheekbones there, and it looks so nice the way the light's hitting. Even the expression, like she's lost. She's got the headphones on, hand in the pockets. She's got the, great style. I feel like that shadow that cuts across her chest, totally, it's totally an eyesore for me. I don't like that. This is one where I would love to see the photographer go 10 feet to the right, down low, kneeled, crouched, pointing up at her. She would have this very, when you shoot from beneath, you get like that hero, that majestic kind of stature. And you could line her up right in front of those buildings there, the building on the left, which has that cool speckling from the light and the shadows. For me, there's just a lot of distractions here. And I would have liked to have seen a different angle and approach taken because there's times where all the extra information leans into the image, but you have just little things, the legs right behind her that are very hot. Obviously, having a big white car right there butted up against her, the shadow going across her chest. You have the gap sign up there, the yellow street light. I feel like this one would have been a better choice for black and white that would minimize a lot of those distractions. And I agree, Steve, with the woman on the left, because her complexion is lighter, it creates more of a hot spot to draw your eye to. And I feel like what should be our main dominant subject gets kind of lost in the mix here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, are you Derek Fashbender or are you Debbie Downer? You listed all those negative things. And though I see where you're coming from, particularly the white car, I think that the angle of this particular kind of serendipitous moment, and the fact that sort of that darkness around her chest area is just a deep shadow. Um, Perfection is overrated, and I get what you say about the legs. I get what you say about the white car, but somehow the strengths of this image for me override some of those negatives, and I don't really care so much about that. And I know that perfection is something we're always kind of looking for, but I'm starting to embrace the imperfection a little bit more, just because we know it's just impossible. I mean, it doesn't happen all that often where all the planets align in a perfect way. I mean, I'm thinking of that the Sam Abel shot of the branding with the red bucket. I got to see that recently. I don't know if you know that shot. But yeah, so for me, just maybe cropping it and getting rid of the person on the left, which was for me the biggest problem with the image. And I know we've got a different shape, but the shape really seems to work. I mean, the size of the building in terms of the area of the frame is somehow kind of equivalent to the woman, and they play well together, I think, in the image, and it's very dramatic. So um, there you go. Let's move over to this one, just because this one has a little bit of a similar feel. It's a very powerful kind of dramatic light, and you can see the shadows and the light, and it's almost, kind of too much in terms of what's going on here. But I think it's a very interesting capture. Like, I don't really like that word, but in terms of the way the light is playing off the scene, I think is really kind of interesting. It may be a little bit too much in a way, just that, I'm not really sort of sure kind of where to look within the frame, but it does remind me of the drama of the light that we're seeing in the picture on the left, maybe a little bit more confusing. So I'm curious to get your feel on this one.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. There's a lot going on. I think the light looks really cool. I'm a big graffiti fan, so I always love graffiti is like our current hieroglyphics. I just think it's so cool. It's art. It's it's something that especially when you go to other cities and you don't see as much of it as you do in New York, it really just kind of sets New York apart with its grit and its character. Um, the right side of the frame is where I get a little lost. I think there's so much going on the left. I wonder how much of the right I need. I do like having a street sign, as everybody who ever listens to me talk knows that I love anything that places an image. The city's changing so much. I love when you know exactly what corner this is because as it looks here, this building could be completely wiped out and there could be a tower there within 3 years. So I always love things that provide something like that. The light post right at the stoplight right on the edge is a little dicey for me, and I don't know, we have those leading lines and leading lines tend to draw our eye. So while that the shape of the leading lines on the right with whatever that facade is there, um while it's cool, it can also be a distraction because it our eyes are just generally pulled into like the leading lines. I think if there wasn't so much going on with the shadows here, it would be a little more prominent. But the shadows and the shape of the shadows and the mix of the colors there do such a great job drawing our eye in that I think it's yeah, even that right there. I think it's just way less distracting. I'm able to focus on the heart of the image so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, playing around, I think that it helps, but part of the kind of somehow uncurated composition, I think, having a wider lens might be nice, and or maybe considering, since you can't get everything in, figuring out another way to approach the scene um, in a way that is probably less interesting because you have, less imagery in there or less in there, but yeah, there's just something that's not working as well as it could in this particular scenario. So, and then we go to a more simplistic view. This image here, you have obviously some recognizable silhouettes, and then you have the red sleeve in the hand. Don't know what it means, but it's kind of interesting. And sometimes an image is just an image, and it will provoke kind of maybe some sort of emotional idea in the mind of the viewer. And for me, this is, I look at this image as more of an appetizer. I kind of want to see more of the photographer's work just because I can see this image. I like this image. I can tell what it is, kind of thing. I love the drama. And that's it. It's not necessarily telling me a story as the image of the woman is, but it's interesting and it's effective.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point in that, and I think it ties into the last image that you had up, the one of the woman, the first image we looked at, in that while I really love, I love the image on the right. I think even though it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't have that meaning, that connection. It's like it was almost like you want something to be there that ties it all together. If that couple is holding hands and you have the hand reaching out, it's almost like, okay, that would make sense because then you have like there's a connection between the two and someone's reaching out. Or if someone had like their hand up, I feel like you want that. And I feel like near misses are okay. It doesn't mean that it's a failed photo. I think street photography is the beauty of it is in all the misses because all the misses make all the makes so much more powerful and meaningful. So in this image on the right, I think the image on the left, it's like, yeah, it has a lot of pieces there. I just don't feel like it's fully together. On the image on the right, I think there's a lot more going for it. It's simple. I would probably crop it in. I see what they were doing with the negative space there on the left. I don't know how effective that is or if it needs that breathing room. I would bring that bottom left corner in just right up to where I get I have a little bit of breathing room between where that handrail disappears and I'm in a little bit closer to the hand. Just kind of frame it up even like that just
Mm.
gives it a lot better feel for me. But again, while everything is cool and I think it's really dynamic in the shadows and that hand, especially with the pop of color, it all looks great. It's aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, I do agree that sometimes because we have a cool frame, we want to stretch the meaning. And I think you get caught up between, okay, is this an aesthetically pleasing shot? Or does it mean anything? Or if it doesn't mean anything, does it take away from the aesthetics of it? If that makes any sense at
Yeah,
all.
I mean, it's a fragment in a body of work that's kind of effective aesthetically. And when it connects with another image, which we don't know what that image will be, it could be kind of like the missing link. And suddenly it works in a way that it's not working on its own, but it will with another image. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the bottom line. It's a cool image. And here we have a very dramatic light. It looks as though excuse me, it might be some sort of a parade, or maybe it's the Trump trial. I don't know. It looks like a thing where people are out and they want to record it. I'm guessing a parade. And it's a very sort of dramatic light. You can sort of feel the humanity all kind of squeezed together, but not in a scary way. People are there. There's joy on their faces. I have to admit, you know what I really like? This person with the glasses in the back there. I can't help.
The
I don't know how
details.
small it looks to you. On my screen, it's a
Yeah.
little bit bigger, but I love those glasses. I can't help but notice those glasses in the background. And if this person, I would want this person in all my frames on the
Can you do a
street.
zoom? Because first thing
Yeah.
I thought when I saw this was solar eclipse, but then I'm like,
Oh, you
no one
you
has glasses.
You're right. It can't be the solar eclipse, although those do look, I mean, maybe it can be. I hope it
I don't
isn't. But
know. No, I think you're because I think with the solar
yeah,
eclipse pictures, it's you had one or two people without glasses, but most people had them
yeah,
on. I don't think
yeah,
most people were.
yeah,
But yeah, that was what I first thought. And then I'm like, wait, no, they're not wearing
yeah,
any glasses.
yeah.
But
So, it's well done. It's very serendipitous. I think, the things that make it work are this person, this person. There's a lot going on here. The moment is good when you really sort of start to play around and look around, even when you can't see the eyes. Um, it's really kind of a nice moment, and this person trying to maybe get out of the way, and you got this little kid there. It's kind of cool when you freeze that frame and you've captured all these individuals frozen forever in a way that works together. And it really does. When you start to magnify and look around here, it's not perfect, but again, perfection is overrated. But you get these phones scattered throughout, and very dramatic light, and it works really well. A complicated shot, arguably a harder shot to get, in the sense that sometimes you've got a very simple composition in a dramatic light, and here we have this very complex image with a lot of drama as well.
yeah, and I
So,
think
oh, go
if
ahead.
if I could just add one thing, the social
Yeah,
commentary on that.
yeah.
Again, the blocking out of the faces I think works here. And this is just a perfect example of how the shadow cutting into the image says something different here. Phones have become such a part of our lives and the photo of the people taking all the photos and the phones blocking faces and this just kind of our obsession with capturing moments and how we are immersed in such a different culture now. I think that there's something to be said for that. I agree it's a great image, and I think that's my favorite part of it is it captures fully everything of noteworthy value that we see now is it's phones up, phones blocking the faces, and I think just that metaphorical vision of a phone blocking out the face and the shadow of the phones blocking out other people's faces Says a lot.
It's kind of ironic, don't you feel, Derek, sometimes? Because I'll look at people with their phones constantly, and rather than being in the moment, you're at this thing and you're recording it, and then I slap myself and say, "Hey, what do I do all the time? I've always got a stupid camera in front of my face. I don't really care about experience things. I want to record these moments." But I think it's a little bit of a self-reflection in a way that the photographers position, in life is not quite where the people are, not quite the things that are behind us that they're capturing, but somewhere on that fringe. And there's kind of no place we'd rather be to a large extent. But even I will put my camera down sometimes and experience the moment.
Yeah. If you don't immerse yourself in the moment, you have no feelings to evoke from the moment with a picture or a video.
Yeah. So we've got more color coming at you here. Um, Maybe we'll start with these two images. There's a lot of blue here. It's really kind of interesting. Let's start with this one because it's a little more complex and a little harder to understand exactly what we're looking at here. It obviously looks like some sort of streaks of beautiful colored light, but I don't know if that's if that's some sort of natural phenomena of another one of these bike things going by, or if it's an art piece. Maybe you have a better idea of what's going on here, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it does look like that. It looks like another one of these going by, maybe one crossing back, going backwards where for that streak there. Yeah, I do. I think it looks really cool. Zoom in on the guy in there. Even that,
Yeah,
like the nice
yeah,
detail in there.
yeah.
I would probably want to see the processing of this. I think if it were the blacks were deepened a little
Oh,
little more
sure. Yeah,
contrast, I think it would play a little better. But really nice frame. It looks like really good. Yeah, even like that, where and then I would bring the white level up a little bit just to pop and get a
mhm,
little more contrast on the face. And
mhm. But
I think
here's
that
something to consider. I mean, I know compositionally, we've got the city in the background, but the city is really so pedestrian. Let's just get rid of the city. Let's have a little bit of the city in there. But and
spoken like a
again,
true New Yorker.
yeah, exactly. Been there, done that. But just look at this beautiful. I mean, we'll find a way to kind of get in, but when you look at what's going on here with this image, I mean, this is kind of where the action is. And
Actually, do really like that. I like that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you want to highlight whatever the heck this is here. It's amazing. And even in here, I'm not really
Yeah.
sure,
And you still have
what.
enough of the city to the city
Yeah,
is a minor player in this and that. You want to know it's there. It gives you enough information to where would know which city it is. And then you have really the action is there. I think this frames it up nicely.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to come in even more, see what happens here. Um, yeah, I mean, I even like it even more just to highlight all this stuff. I mean, this is where the
Yeah.
action is. Sure, the cities, maybe there's a better way to crop it in the background, but it's amazing, and you definitely want to highlight like that. So, I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know. I mean, it's something to consider for the photographer to consider a slightly different crop, just because again, you've got so much going on here in terms of, and in a way, it's just such a boring distraction compared to this crazy color and beautiful scene of this guy relaxing. And I think that really will help, make full advantage of it. Um, and now we'll look here. So it looks like some sort of a parade scenario, I guess. You might be familiar with this parade, maybe, Derek, but a young person all dressed up in beautiful colorful costume. Um, I think, from a compositional point of view, I mean, kind of the action is here kind of thing. Although, in some ways, I'd rather see a more, so I could maybe consider a different crop potentially if there was a little bit more in the frame here. And I don't believe that, closer is always better. But if I'm not sticking to if I'm not sticking to the aspect ratio, even maybe coming in a little bit there might give us a little bit more on him. And yeah, personally, I think it helps the image. And I love the expression, I love the color, the selective focus in the background, so it's less distracting. We can always even darken that even more. Um, Derek, I'm often amazed when you select the background, for example, how good uh, Lightroom is. In this case, not so good.
Yeah,
But
this is a trick.
oftentimes,
This is a tricky one.
yeah, oftentimes it really is good to allow you to darken that. But I like I like this shot. Nice color, nice moment. A little less complex than some of the other ones that we were looking at, but I think it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, looks like a Dia de los Muertos celebration somewhere. It's got the sugar skull face paint there. So information,
Yeah.
enough information to tell a little bit about it. I'd probably crop in a little bit on the left side just because there's that background showing there
Mm,
that pops through, but minor detail. I
yeah.
think this is effective. It's nicely exposed, nicely processed. The color pops without going too far in
Mm,
the land of saturation and vibrancy. But yeah, it works. It works.
yeah. Okay, now let's spice things up a little bit with this image here. It looks like some sort of a spice scenario. Um, and I think in these kinds of images, we really need to explore and figure out what the best possible scenario in terms of the composition is. Um, I like what's going on the left side of the frame. I'm a little less enamored with the plastic scoop and the bucket here for some reason. But I know that the photographer is sort of keeping the circle of this thing going. And there's not really much you can do if you kind of want to leave life the way it is, and that scoop is there. But it's a little bit distracting for me. I think in these kinds of situations, you want to kind of really work in the compositional dance, slightly move and move here and move there to kind of minimize what distractions there might be, rather than maybe search for a correction in terms of the composition or the cropping kind of thing. But even if we did maybe come in a little bit here, no, it's not really working so well. You may not be as bothered as I am with, more the right side of the frame.
No, I am. I am.
Oh, okay.
I'm holding on. I don't want to be too Debbie Downer today, but no.
Sorry,
No.
I didn't mean to bring that up.
No,
Um,
look, we're here to critique images, and I
yeah,
think that people realize that. They understand
yeah,
that. And the purpose of a critique, if I might digress a little bit, is to make ourselves better. We say this all the time, Steve, that we take information from this that we use in our own photography that makes us better photographers. The blue, it does. The blue takes too much dominance. Even that, like, look at that. Like that
yeah,
totally sells the image. I see,
yeah,
okay, red pepper flakes. I know
yeah,
what it is. My eye goes right there to the detail. When you
yeah,
have those blues in there, the blues dominate. And if you were going to leave the blues in, I would say
yeah.
desaturate them a little bit, do like a local correction on the blue channel to pull that down and take
Yeah.
some of the vibrancy out of those blues. But again,
Yeah,
I
I
say it
think
all the
the
time. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the problem for me is not so much the blue, it's the actual item. That
Yeah,
plastic item, regardless of the color, is really kind of getting in the way. And I think, this is maybe a compromise here, because when you see this image, to me, this is kind of what you were trying to do to show the different spices,
hmm
and this one's sharp in the foreground. It's kind of an extreme crop, but aesthetically, it's much more effective than. And here, I'll maybe
totally.
put them both
And this is where
together.
you want to work a scene and get down lower. If you go to the left of the spices and kneel down or crouch down, those piles of spices are going to block out that stuff on the right, the plastic blue containers. And you're also, because you're changing your perspective. So imagine the photographer moves 2 feet to the left, crouches down. If you look at the colors on the left side of the frame,
Yeah.
they're going to be more harmonious than the colors on the right side of the frame. Split the frame in half and look at the colors. The left side is more harmonious than the right side. The right side, the background is going to, and then you have those two pops
Yeah.
of blue. On the left side, everything works. You would
Mm.
also be able to factor in, you have those two big containers in the back. So you get in closer, you get down low, you block out that entire right side of the frame so that your right side, see how you have it here, you would have the same angle that you have, except really just
Yeah,
done in
maybe
camera.
more layers to the photo.
Yeah,
And I love
exactly.
the bokeh, the out of focus stuff. But also, I think one thing that we often discover in these critiques is that the out of focus bokeh, as much as it's really out of focus, you still see the body language of the people, so that's all part of it in terms of moment. And that's why you got to shoot, a few extras because those chess pieces in the background are constantly moving, and you want one where maybe they're as harmonious as the spices are set up. But the picture on the right, I think, accomplishes the mission of, showing the texture and the beauty of, it would be nice to see even more layers, but it's a way to kind of simplify the image. And now we'll go to this one, and I really like this image because, to me, this image has got humor in it. I can see the the steam thingy with the steam coming out. You can see the person, the hand in the advertisement is holding something which might be hot, and thus the steam kind of makes sense. The color really sort of holds together the red of the salmon teriyaki and the red of the tube with the steam coming out of it work. The composition is kind of interesting. It's to me a little bit akin to the hand coming out of nowhere kind of thing. And I think it's a simple, but it delivers to me a story that's kind of humorous and kind of fun.
Yeah, totally. I do love it. It's funny. The one thing I'll add to it, again, I feel like I'm so negative today, but looks the steam stack looks a little crunchy. Looks like maybe it's a little the clarity's bumped up a little bit. It just looks a little too, all the detail in it is a little too crunchy. I don't know if
Okay.
that if you're seeing it or maybe if it's just
Yeah.
on my end, but I would maybe pull it back a little bit. If clarity or texture was added, I would maybe go a little lighter on it.
Yeah, there is one. There
Let's
we go.
see. Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And
Okay. I
where
brought
it
it
really
down
stands
to.
out is in like that worn off graffiti and the dirt smudges on the white part of that.
Mhm,
If they
mhm,
have too much form, it really draws you want your eye to just take in that scene and that irony and that humor that is drawing. You don't want to get caught into the details. It kind of should just kind of blend into the background there.
mhm, mhm.
Perfect. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Great frame.
Mm. So, this one is maybe a little bit more akin to this image. Maybe I should have put these two together in a sense that, there's a lot going on in both of these images. You can see that these guys are reacting to something. Not sure exactly what. Let me just hit the auto button. Maybe that's too much, but just so we can lighten up the image so we can see a little bit more. It's a really nice moment. You can sort of see these guys are kind of the main in focus area. The person in the foreground is really out of focus. So because of that, perhaps not all that distracting, but we'll get Derek's opinion on it. And then this one here, just a great expression, even though she's completely out of focus, you get a sense of it. I'm curious if I go black and white. No, the color still works. Oops. Um, but
Actually, like that second black and white
oh yeah,
look great. If
okay.
you're gonna go black and white, yeah, that
Yeah,
second
no,
version
it,
there
it
looked,
helps to have
yeah,
a little bit
little
more.
little punchy.
But yeah, the story in the image I think works both in color and in black and white. If anything, I mean, yeah, maybe the person in the bottom left figure is a little bit distracting, but uh, I'm gonna keep the same aspect ratio. I suppose I could come up a little bit and see if that helps matters some. Maybe leave just the eyes in there, kind of thing. Um, but
Yeah,
it's a nice moment.
yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you said. Again, another example of you know, I know in the moment it's hard, but try to do your best to get different angles or really work for the best angle. Cause I think here a little bit to the left would have gotten, would have pulled the girl who's not facing the camera, would have pulled her out of the frame a little bit. Maybe you get something more of value from her in the frame, but you also get a more direct look at them, which I think could change things up. It's not a bad frame. It
Mm,
ultimately it captures the moment. We can always nitpick that the one girl's hand, the fingertips disappear out of the frame. Those are kind of some of the things. And again, going back to what I was saying earlier, sometimes you don't get everything right, and it's so hard to do it in the moment. And it's why street photography is such a hard craft, and but that's the stuff that why we do these critiques, because the next time, if this person is watching or listening to this, the next time they have a frame like this, they're going to pay attention. Because look how you cropped off the, an inch off the bottom, Steve. In
mm,
camera, if they would have tilted it up to where they
mm,
get an inch above, we
mm,
we don't have to crop the bottom, and now we're not losing a hand on the top, and we have a little more breathing room on the top. So we bring these things up to make you all conscious when you're photographing in the moment. But
mm.
nice frame. I think it gets the point across. It captures what it wanted to capture. I think the having more of the foosball board in play, again, higher angle up to the left, looking at them more direct, I think it would have provided a nicer vantage point, and it would have filled in the center of the frame with that foosball, which would have been a cool detail to add.
Yeah, an indicator as to kind of Derek's kind of good call on that is when you see kind of what's at the bottom here, and then you see what's at the top. You did crop off this girl's fingers, and that's kind of awkward. Much better if they were there as opposed to being cropped the way they are. So yeah, so it's like tilt up. You have her full hand there, a little less distraction there, and that's good. We've got two images here that arguably would work really well in black and white, maybe even better in black and white. We can try that. I mean, we often talk about how color um, can, make the picture better by allowing the content to come out more. Certainly, the two young men I've never been to Israel. It's on my list by the Wailing Wall, I guess it is. I know that I know enough from pictures to know maybe where that is. And then the picture on the right, the young guy on the Staten Island ferry. It's a really nice moment. I love the way his hand there. But that orange is pretty dramatic as well. Um, but let's take a look. So, what do you think? I mean, do you like the color? Do you feel it's a little
I
overdone in terms of the orange?
I love it. I actually really, really, really love. Again, this is personal preference for me.
Yeah.
I think that the tone, the tonality of the orange and the blue work very well. Orange and blue, obviously complementary colors that they work very well together. Which is interesting because the one Spice picture, I didn't like the combination of the orange and the blue, and sometimes
Mm,
it's more the tonality. The Staten Island Ferry has like that washed, faded, more
mm,
yellowy orange look that I really like, and the blues in here have more of a cyan tone to them, which I think works good with the faded orange. I really like this.
mm,
Obviously, in a perfect world, you get that camera way more out there, and you get more of that skyline there, and you get it split between orange and blue directly down the center. Again, we point these things out not because we're super photographers and we never, do anything wrong, but we point them out because this is stuff to look for, the next time you do a shot like this, to say, oh yeah, if I had that directly down the center, how much more does it impact it? If I get more of the skyline in there, so that his arm sticking up doesn't block the skyline, but maybe change the perspective, maybe come up a little bit higher. This is a tricky frame to get.
mm,
Um, Also, I'm totally taking that into mind that you're photographing someone's child. If this is not your child, it's someone else's child, and that can get a little dicey out, especially in this day and age. I feel like people, it's more of an issue now. It's harder to photograph strangers than it was even 5 years ago. But I really like the frame. I like the expression.
Yeah.
The hand on the head, the gesture is good. I feel like this is a really, really nice frame, and this is a perfect example for me of where the color sells it.
Yeah, I think here was the original. So this was the original, and I just felt that maybe the color was just not completely working for me. Um, though having just recently not been on, but saw the Staten Island Ferry, that orange color is so iconic for what the
Yeah,
ferry is and what it looks like. And I like it. And arguably, in listening to Derek and seeing it in black and white, sure, it works in black and white, but it also works in color. And knowing the iconic color of the Staten Island Ferry, I don't mind. I don't think it has to be quite in half. Although it would be interesting to see that, but it just works, and the
yeah,
moment is there, and it's just a really nice moment captured. In this one, though, I would probably say that maybe the black and white arguably is a little bit stronger because we don't really have the same kind of what's the word, loyalty to the color. At least I feel, because in some ways, the color, the blue is kind of pulling me away and distracting me from the young guys doing what they're doing. So for me in this one, I'm pretty sure that I would go with black and white, or I would, definitely turn down the vibrance of the colors. So I think it works when you do take out the vibrance and you still have the sort of real look of what, color gives you. I think in this instance, it works really nice.
yeah. I totally agree. I think taking just that blue hue out of the blacks and the midtones adds such a huge bonus to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, in continuing on with some of the color images here, we've got some street images. We've got these two, which I'll share with you now. Um, Kind of interesting, right? The one on the right, I mean, what do you do with this stopper on the sidewalk? They're there. They're kind of ugly. We see garbage cans that we'd rather not see sometimes in our frame. And it's really hard to get an angle on this particular shot on the right without dealing with that. Although, you could come up, you can tilt that screen up, hold the camera above your head and see if you can at least lower that down or move it away from the legs somehow. I think there's a better way to go.
I say
Uh,
you go really close and
or
shoot
yeah,
wide
there's the
from an
other.
angle. If you go really close up to the left or really up close to the right and you shoot wide angle, this is perfect for 24 or even wider to where
Yeah.
that face on the art is totally ripe to be distorted with a wide angle lens. That would look so cool distorted on the edge of a wide angle frame. And then the guy sitting there, you either, if you go to the left, he's the star and the face is the backdrop, which I think is cool. Or
Mm.
if you go to the right and distort it, you have that face. I think the art is so cool and so colorful that that works as a star as well. And even if you had the guy slightly out of focus in the background, it's really just more about the shape of him, the gesture of him just sitting there.
And if I was photographing this, I might try and be patient and maybe try and get a different expression because obviously he's looking down, he's whatever. Look at the painting. I'd rather him kind of look at me with a similar smile. I think that could be more fun than him kind of looking like that.
Yeah.
And
Steve, go
and
really drastic with like a 3:1 ratio
okay. Hmm. Well, I
and
can
just
just
cut and leave it
zoom
right
in.
how you have it right there, where you get like the part of the face and really with
You're
the
talking about
guy.
like come in really
So
close.
come in. Let me see. Is that a
Oh, you want
yeah.
3:1?
Yeah,
Let me
go
just
3:1. Go really drastic.
okay.
Go like more like a
Do I have
cinema
3:1? I
ratio.
don't
Like
really have that.
there we go.
2.4?
Do we have a
Or
is
is
that
it?
2.4:1? Yeah, go like a
Yeah,
more like
that's
a
what it
cinema
is.
ratio. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. And
Oh,
pull that out frame. Yeah, there you go.
all right. Yeah.
Just want to see that. And maybe
You know,
down a
this,
little bit. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I
look,
think there's
I
something to be
think,
said.
yeah, the focus is not quite there, the file's
Yeah.
not quite there, but and nor is the expression. I mean, he looks kind of upset, and that maybe that could be good in relationship to this painting. But I think again, patience, more time in fewer places equals
Mhm.
stronger images. You've got a lot of potential here in terms of the gentleman who's sitting there. People kind of walking by can be very interesting as well. So, it's right now it's just a little bit not quite. I don't think the best was gotten from this situation. I think there was a lot more to get here, and maybe the photographer didn't stay long enough or explore enough of the angles. Even if you came around him to the left and photographed him or kept him out of focus and get, you want to experiment because that art piece is really kind of what we're excited about in terms of the frame. So in relationship to that, rather than straight on, because straight on is a little, problematic, and waiting for the right moment, I think could work.
Yeah, and
Um,
one more thing on that, Steve. If the
yeah.
expression, it's I know it's hard for some people, but this is also ripe for waiting to get a response. And if I walk up on a scene like this, of course I have no problem walking up on strangers and taking their photo and walking
Mm.
about my way. But if you do have the gumption to walk up and stare somebody down and take an image of them, this would be great to just get an expression, get eye contact from him.
Mhm.
You're either going to get a smirk or a smile, which works with the painting, or
Mhm.
you're going to get an angry look or a confused look, which still works with the painting. So either way, no matter what you get, I think that eye contact and having something, when you cropped in, it's like, okay, there's so much more opportunity here. You don't need the full painting. Really focus on the expression of the painting, juxtapose it, or you pair it with the expression that you would get from the subject.
And talk about a moment here. We've got a really nice moment. Looks like a tap dancer with the band in the background. You got the tips, but it's kind of that moment, right? The hands are kind of spread out. It's kind of the ta-da moment that you're kind of looking for. Dance is really hard to photograph because it's a still image, and dance is all about the movement. So to capture one image that kind of describes the dance is a tall order. I mean, I know that from my own personal experience. I mean, I love when you see people dancing. It's just such a great thing. And I'll shoot and shoot and shoot, and I'll try and pull the best of it. But to capture kind of the decisive moment in a dance scenario, it's not an easy thing. And I think there probably were many decisive moments with this dancer. And this one works for me. This one I love just because, the one foot up, the other foot, she's on her toe, but it's the hands that are kind of working for me there. And then the sort of triangle of the bass player's hand with the dancer's two hands kind of work for me compositionally. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd want to see it in black and white. I think could
Okay, yeah.
possibly be a cool black and white image. And again, as I've probably already said 50 times today, another opportunity to play around with different angles, compositions. Looks like there's a lot of nice greenery behind there that could frame up the background nicely. Or if you zoomed in or punched in,
Mm.
um, you know, kind of play with a tighter crop on the guy in the background and her with her arms out. But I do like the gesture. I do like the feet up, the expressions. He's kind of just off in the distance, but nice frame.
And the black and white really brings it out. So again, if the color is not amplifying the content and somehow getting in the way a little bit, take a look at black and white and see what that will do. Sometimes it works really well. So the next few images, the commonality is we've got some animals in these next few images. And it's interesting. I mean, it's not always the exotic or the wild animals that will make the best pictures. Of course, they will. But images, of kind of your ordinary pet or the duck in the pond, can also, be interesting. Um, so if you have, let's maybe take a look at the three relatively close-up images. And we've got the two dogs and the bears. I think, this one dog, what I really like about it is the treatment of the processing. Plus, I really love the kind of low angle and, of course, the tongue coming out of his mouth. The middle dog, beautiful dog with the snow all over him. I think there's something to be done to make it a little bit more dramatic. in terms of the enhancements, darken it, just to do it to the extreme. So I'll make it a little bit more. Maybe, take some of the vibrance out potentially. So the snow, because the snow is really kind of what is making this image work to a large degree. Let's see what the black and white does. The black and white can be nice too. And then you have this one, which again, I think it's a little underwhelming in terms of the treatment. I think again, there's something better to be had in terms of the treatment, in terms of the technical. And then, when you sort of look at the sort of focus on the bear, I like the framing between the two branches, but the rocks are too prominent for me in this image. And I see you're at 1.5.6 at 1/100th of a second. Perhaps it's a 70 to 300 at 170, so it's fairly telephoto. Maybe it's just better to, even though the framing of those things works well, maybe we need to sort of come in a little bit. And I think maybe something like this could work. And then also black and white, I think, could lend itself to make the image a little stronger. It's a small file, so we're not going to have the kind of quality that we would really want. And I think this one too it's kind of a record of this duck. It's got to be sharp. The eye is maybe not as sharp as it could be. It's very central, but I love I'm not going to do black and white. I'm not going to, it's a little central, and I think there are many more dynamic compositions that can be had with something like this. Not necessarily this, but it's just something to think about. You want to make sure the focus is as sharp as it can be on the eye of the animal, because that's really kind of the key. And I think it's missing a little bit here in terms of the focus, or at least in this small file. Whereas here in these two dog images, I think it's definitely working better. I'm just going to continue. I'll barrel on and I'll let Derek pipe in. Now this, I think, can be a lot more dynamic. I don't know how people feel about the transform tool, but just to sort of straighten things out, let's see what it does. All right, maybe that's too much overcompensation, but for me, the image is in here. I think that there's a very dynamic image happening, and maybe the transform was a little too much, but I think something like this can be very effective and so much stronger. Maybe we could even come in a little bit more. I'll straighten that out a little. Come in more on the bottom. Anyway, something to consider. But I love the line of the cows heading to that tree. I think it's cool. I'll finally stop talking and I'll let Derek
Oh,
get in here.
I'd be beating a dead horse. No, everything you said again, same things I've been saying all day. Perspective. If this was taken from a vehicle, it would change things, obviously. But if they had the ability to get to the left, closer to that line where you are looking down the line of cattle and have that tree kind of as the end point, I think that would create a cool perspective. Yeah, I think it's very far off. It's way too far from from the action that you want. The tree looks really cool. The line of cattle looks really cool. There's enough. I think even like the tan of the barren field mixed with the overcast sky creates a cool color dynamic. But for me, it's just missing that closeness in that angle.
Yeah, and I kind of for me, I really enjoy the line of cows. I mean, it's almost sort of a straight line. So I keep coming in just to sort of see what
And
that's
it
going
looks
to
like there would
do.
be like there's some dust kick up there
Yeah,
too, which would be a
perhaps.
cool. The
Yeah,
closer you
yeah.
get, the more prominent that dirt being
Yeah.
kicked up
Yes,
is. And
yeah. So it's tough though. I mean,
yeah.
that's what we like about it for sure. At the same time, it's difficult to necessarily figure out that perfect sort of crop. And if that's the case, that generally says that maybe there's another angle that perhaps could work better. So again, we're a big advocates of working the scene whenever possible. Take this shot, move, 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 try something a little different. Because we're sort of extreme cropping, maybe there's a few other frames that the photographer took of this scene that might also lend itself to an image that works even better. And now we're really simplifying it. And again, less is more, which is often the case. I think these two images speak to the timing. The picture on the left catching that beautiful animal kind of in peak moment. Because it's a critique, we're going to talk about the idea that sometimes, okay, this file doesn't get any bigger, but sometimes, the focus is not quite exactly where it needs to be. It's a beautiful image, the separation of the head of the animal. I think, black and white might be really nice in this situation. Potentially the color is not as effective. It's something to consider. But it's also the idea that you want to have the focus of the animal, especially the head of the animal in focus. And, many of today's cameras, do that kind of easily, even in very fast moving situations. If we see this at the right size, you're not going to necessarily notice the focus, but I can't not mention that because technical, though not often the most important part of the image, sometimes it just needs to be there as you kind of continue your journey in photography. If you can take this picture, you can certainly take it, when it's sharp. I mean, to me, it's a strong picture. It's simple, but that's my only real criticism.
Yeah, agreed on
Yeah.
everything.
And now we have this image here. Um, you can see the angle, the horizon. I know that that's something that bothers our man here. Let's see if we can bring. All right. Well, that doesn't really work because we lose the sort of wing.
This is where generative AI, Phil, that generative AI expand would work wonderful. Actually, my main, even beyond the horizon, because as I've talked about, sometimes when the horizon is tilted because it works to fit things in the frame, it can work.
Yeah.
For me, the egregious um, error on this is too much information recovery.
Mm.
It's backlit, and even on an overcast day, yes, you still have a backlit image. And when you look up with that much sky and you can see the sun kind of hiding behind the sky back there, you're going to have backlit subjects. So there's going to be, especially with that bird having the color and the detail, and you have the nice spreading of the wings, you're going to be tempted to pull back shadows and pull back highlights and really try to get the most dynamic range out of the image. But what happens and what you should all be conscious of is the haloing. So you look around the guy, there's a lot of haloing around him. There's haloing in the bird. And it also looks more unnatural. You lose some dimension with that bird. That bird should have some shadow and some transition from light to dark, especially on the underside. And then the one last thing I'll say is clean your sensors. There's a lot of sensor dust in there. So make sure you're cleaning your sensor, especially if you're going to be shooting at f8 or more closed down than that, because it's really going to come into detail. If you're shooting wide or open, you can get away with it because you're not going to see the specs on the sensor as easily, or if at all. But if you're shooting with a really, really, really rich aperture, you're going to want to make sure you have a clean sensor.
Yeah, all those technical things I think are true. There's a lot more that can be done. But now let's look at the image. I mean, the fact is, that bird, the capture of the pigeon, if you will, it looks more glorious than what we often look to as pigeons. Is really kind of a really cool moment against the sky. Fisherman, you got the other thing there. I like what's going on with that. Of course, all those technical things, yes, are true. But in terms of the bones of the image, if it isn't kind of straight, there has to be kind of a good reason. And I think in some ways, this one is really about the moment and the capture of the scene with the bird in that particular um, formation with the wings spread in terms of that closeness. I think can be is really effective. So I can't believe, Derek, it's 2 o'clock already.
It
We've
flies,
spun
man. It
through an hour,
flies.
and we never get quite to anywhere near the images. And I sort of take a bunch of images. We have many more that we haven't seen yet, and I apologize. We apologize. We haven't gotten to your image, but we
Steve is
will.
indebted to us for life at this point. We will not
Absolutely.
let him go until he gets through every last submission.
Exactly. And I'll be in my early hundreds, no problem. I'll continue
You'll
on.
still be taking
And
photos. If you could take them, you could
absolutely.
critique them.
Exactly. Although by that time, maybe we'll be taking them. Have you played with the those sunglasses, the Meta sunglasses that
No, I
take
haven't.
pictures? They take still and video.
Interesting.
Looks kind of interesting, but this way you're just walking and click. A little light shines to let the person know that you can't really turn off that light.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah, we'll see what the future holds.
Interesting.
But in the end, it's all about the content. So whatever the technical, whatever wherever we're at, it's all about content, and that's what art is all about. I mean, machines can do things, and AI can do amazing things. By the way, guys, I happened to be at the Whitney last weekend, and on the top floor, there's an artist, Mr. Cohen, who was doing AI in the 70s. The guy's a genius. He set up these things. It's incredible. AI in the 70s? Oh my God. So yeah, it's kind of all been done before. Um, but I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you, Lassie. And Photo Educate, the workshop. Our next real big workshop is London in July, and that's
Oh,
going to be
nice.
fun. London is one of my favorite places to photograph. I love it there. I love the food there. I love the people, and I especially love to capture the. It's like New York. I mean, there's just so many different, interesting rhythms and places to go, and you're going to come back with a really interesting portfolio. Have you been to London to shoot, Derek?
No, I haven't, and everyone keeps telling me I got to get my passport
Oh my
renewed.
God. Yeah,
I
you
know.
definitely do. You definitely do. I mean, look, we happen to be blessed in a place where, even our 3 block radius is enough for us. We don't really need to travel. But every time I leave New York, I realize that, yeah, there is life outside of New York, surprisingly. So
Yeah, I do need to travel. Steve, I want to thank you as always. Like I said, we'll keep this series going. I think this has been very popular with people, and I hope you guys are learning. You guys keep upping the game for us. I know, Steve, I get motivated because it's like I see what our viewers are out there doing, and I got to stay on top of my game as well.
that's what it's all about. We're encouraging each other to just keep moving forward and doing better. And there are no limits, really there aren't. And, again, oftentimes I'll see some of my photographic heroes and man, they're doing some of their best work, 60s, 70s, 80s. I think writers are like that too, visual artists. Um, the best is yet to come. So,
Yeah.
let's just keep pushing it and see what we can do.
Yeah. Look, we're just hitting our warm-up laps. So a lot of photos to be taken. But of course, a huge thank you to Steve and to Lassie for hosting and all of you guys who are submitting. Again, head over to our YouTube page if you want to check out this and all of our other live content that we house there for you guys. It's free educational content. Best place to find it on the internet. And if you would like your image critiqued, you can go right to our event space website, find the details under one of the passionate photographer critiques, and get it sent in. And hopefully, you guys are getting something out of this. Like Steve always says, even if your image is not being critiqued, you can learn so much from the critiques of others. So, Steve, I'll let you take us out today.
Okay, well, get out there. The weather's good here in New York today and coming up soon. It's one of my favorite times to shoot. I mean, I love shooting in all kinds of weather, but when it's comfortable, it's a little easier, and maybe you can see things a little bit more clearly. So, can't wait to get out there and keep shooting.
Awesome. Likewise, Steve, you make sure to get the Mermaid Parade for me this year because I think I'm gonna miss it. But
Oh,
we
I
will
will
all
be
catch you
there.
guys on the next edition of the Passionate Photographer Critiques. That's all we have for you today. Another edition of B&H Virtual Event Space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.